Important alert from the Minister of Immigration before we start. The international student cap is here and the devil is in the details.
A temporary 2-year cap on new international student permits.
The scary part is that now the federal government will give quotas to provinces for how many students they're allowed to take in. And the previous minister hinted that the cap will not be equal.
Province to province, it may vary. There are provinces who will not likely be impacted by the measures that put in place today. I spent 5 years living in Alberta. They probably don't use up their share of the international student program today.
Look at British Columbia or Ontario. The cut is more significant than elsewhere. This is why it might not be the best to follow 50% of Canadians and move below this line. I'll talk more about it at the end of the video. Another problem is many international students miss this decision matrix when choosing a province in Canada. They often base their answer on relatives and friends, many of whom live in Ontario. But what worked for you might not work for them, and vice versa. By speaking to real immigrants across the country, I made a list of 5 provinces best for international students and other newcomers. The most important will come in the end. I'll give you one question, by answering which you'll make the right selection. Get ready for takeoff. Once we land, you'll know exactly where to move in Canada. I'm going to begin with Saskatchewan. You might have never heard of this province before, but it could be a hidden gem for the next few years. According to the TD Economics Provincial Economic Forecast, among the other provinces, Saskatchewan is forecasted to have the highest real GDP growth rate at 1.5% in 2024, while Quebec and Ontario are at the lower end with projected growth rates of 0.6% and 0.4% respectively. One factor many international students worry about is how expensive Canada is or has become. While this is true across the board, there are places with astronomical rent costs and cities with relatively affordable housing. According to CMHC, the monthly rent for a 2-bedroom condo apartment in Saskatoon, the biggest city in Saskatchewan, is just under $1,500 per month. If you compare this to places like Vancouver, where the same goes for $3,500, this starts signaling extreme affordability. There are great schools as well, like the University of Saskatchewan or Saskatchewan Polytechnic, with amazing IT programs. So you might ask, what's the catch then? According to some sources, there's an increased crime rate in the city. The city police mapped out crime by area, where the red dots represent assault. The biggest advantage of Saskatchewan is in its immigration streams. For instance, you study in the province, and you might be able to apply for PR by only acquiring 6 months of work experience and not the usual 1 year like everywhere else. However, the weather is a big downside, with temperatures hovering around minus 15 degrees in January. That's quite intense, I know, but a warm jacket, a nice car, you're good. Therefore, I place Saskatchewan in the lower right of the matrix of choice. Plus, it's not affected by the cap. Number 2, Nova Scotia, the place I call home, so I can comment a lot more from personal experience that I gained throughout the years of living here. My home province has a predicted 1% GDP growth in 2024, which is an indication of opportunities in many sectors, from healthcare to technology, finance to construction. Speaking of construction, there's a new permanent residency stream in Nova Scotia, and it's specifically meant for workers in this industry. Listen to what the Minister of Immigration told me about the new critical construction worker stream.
Of course, there's a massive need for skilled trade workers. And the construction sector has been asking and speaking to our department about ways in which they can support their recruitment efforts or look for talent that might not be here at home right now. So launching the pilot critical construction stream was a way for our department to work with the sector in a way to respond and to show that there's another pathway to come here if you want to work as a skilled trade worker.
Is this a pathway to PR?
It absolutely is. It is. And so for some of your viewers, they've probably explored our provincial nominee program. So this is an occupation in demand from the provincial nominee program.
Important. If you're still confused about the process, listen to the minister's explanation of the main requirements of the critical construction worker pilot.
Right away, it's the job offer, and I'm sure that many of your viewers would know that too. So making sure that you do have a connection to an employer here in Nova Scotia, you have that job offer in hand, then you apply to the Nova Scotia immigration stream, so putting an application through. So once you have your nomination from the province, you can then apply for your temporary work permit or then ultimately your permanent residency. As an example, drywallers, roofers, and so other occupations that are connected to the home building sector. But as we've mentioned, it's a pilot, and we want to be able to see how this is going to unfold. If it's successful, who knows what the other options might be. But there's 21 designated occupations under this stream right now.
When we look at schools here in Nova Scotia, NSCC comes to mind, which is one of the most affordable colleges in Canada, with employer-recognized high standards of education. Among other big players, obviously we have Dalhousie, which is in top 10 universities in Canada. Another benefit is the cost of living, which is still relatively low. You can find one-bedroom apartments for around $1,200 or shared rooms in the range of $300 to $700. One of the advantages of Nova Scotia is that it's a coastal province with great weather. We have the ocean, so being one of the warmest provinces in Canada, you can have really warm days in the winter, like relatively warm at around 5 degrees Celsius in January, which is amazing for Canada, trust me. Obviously, it's not to say that we don't have snowstorms or winter blizzards, freezing temperatures, but compared to the rest of the country, it's not as bad. The cost of living and the Atlantic immigration program, along with other PNPs, put Nova Scotia in the bottom right of the graph. The cap effect is supposed to be fairly low. Number 3, British Columbia. Since we started speaking about the weather, I'd like to take you to the warmest province of Canada, well, specifically where the city of Vancouver is, and the island of Vancouver. The only problem is this red flag. According to TD analysts, the labor market in BC is supposed to slow in 2024, which tells us your work field needs to match what the province currently is looking for. One way to identify areas in demand is to look at the BC Skills Immigration Program. First of all, construction workers such as plumbers, roofers, carpenters, and others. Second, healthcare. It's a big section. Nurses, doctors, dentists, and the list goes on and on and on. Third, of course, technology, such as web designers, software developers, and so on. BC is also known to have one of the highest salaries in the country, so you'll make more money compared to other places. But what's the problem? You might get a bit anxious when you look at the increased cost of living. According to a rent report by Live.Rent, a one-bedroom apartment will set you back almost $2,400 a month. If you look at shared apartments, it's unlikely to find anything below $1,000 per month. I'm talking individual room. Therefore, I would highly recommend moving to British Columbia if you're a family of 2 and both are working professionals with decent salaries, or if you have single income that pays a lot of money. The upside, though, is the export business opportunities you can have with Asia. Countries like China make up a great partner for British Columbia. All of these factors place British Columbia in the upper right of the graph. Finally, British Columbia will most likely be seriously affected by the international student cap. You have probably noticed the live rent reports I keep using in my research. These comprehensive summaries tell you the exact numbers that you need, such as rent averages, changes in your city every month, and the crazy part is you can access all of them for free. There's no catch, no catch. If you haven't used the platform yet, run to live.rent as it will help you stay ahead of the rental market. It's important that if you want to move to Canada, you should start looking for your next home or your new home before you even move to the country. And Live.Rent is the only company to make it safe. Now listen to me explain how it works. It's important I speak about this because there's nothing quite like LiveRent. Here's why. One simple reason. They put safety first. It's Canada's safest rental platform. Let me show you how it works. You'll be mind blown because it's super easy. Let's say you're going to Toronto. All you need to do is go to live.rent, search for the city, and then go to filter, scroll all the way down, and click search only verified. And now, once you click show, you will see listings with this orange badge. The orange badge stands for verified properties. So you know that this apartment has been verified. And if you scroll down, you will see this blue badge, which means that the landlord has been verified, that their ID was verified by LiveRent's team. This is why this platform stands out to me, and I can't recommend it enough to people. It's incredible. Of course, you can see property details like the pictures, you can see what you get, the amenities, you can see a lot of information, you can see the map and all that. That's great. But even better, when you go back to the overall search, see this message button? You can directly reach out to landlords and inquire about whatever you want. And that's a fantastic tool. And right next to it, I'd like to point out this Apply Now button. Another great benefit that LiveRent has is that you create one profile, but you can apply to multiple, as many listings in fact, as you want. And this shortens the time you need to spend, because imagine applying to each listing separately, creating a new profile. No, that's in the past. LiveRent is in the future. And now the coolest part. Once you're done with this video, I recommend you go to live.rent, search for where you're moving, let's say it's Toronto, and do one cool thing to be ahead of other people. So let's pretend that you have certain criteria. Let's say that your budget is limited to $2,000 and you have pets. So you go to filter, you set the filter to the amount of money you have. Let's say it's $2,000 per month. And then let's say that you're looking for properties with cats allowed because you have a cat. See, there's only 7 properties that fulfill that requirement. However, when you hit create alert up here in the top right corner, all you need to do is add your email and then create an alert. What that will do is once more properties that fulfill your requirements come up, LiveRent will notify you so that you're ahead of others and you apply immediately to get that new home of yours. I highly recommend you check out live.rent to stay ahead of other people when moving to Canada. Go to their website, it's going to be in the description to the video, and definitely give them a try, make a profile, check it out. It's an incredible software that they built. Number 4, Alberta, a swing province whose economy largely depends on global gas and oil prices. I was quite amazed by Calgary, the province's biggest city. It's relatively affordable for one of the largest urban centers in Western Canada after Vancouver. Live.rent reports that the average one-bedroom apartment will cost around $1,700. However, if you do your research and find something for less, that's great, because I know there's studios for less than $1,700. Plus, when you go to Edmonton, the capital of the province, it's a little up north, so colder, but cheaper. You'll find better prices, I'm sure. In terms of immigration opportunities to get PR, the Minister of Education of Alberta told me personally that the province has amazing pathways that you can leverage. I also pulled other PR options using Immigrant AI that you can see on this screen right now. Feel free to try it out yourself. The link will be in the description to the video. Now you can see why we place Alberta in the mid-right of the matrix. Like Sean Fraser said, it looks like the province is not really affected by the cap. Ontario. Now you might be wondering, if all of these places are so good, why do 50% of Canadians live below this line? Is this the best place in the country? Well, not so fast. Hold up. Because the unspoken truth is Ontario is extremely competitive. The Greater Toronto Area, which happens to be the most populated part of Canada, comes with many opportunities. True. But because of thousands of people flocking to this part of the country, we often see 2,000 resumes per one job posting. And that's really competitive. This also means that the housing market is out of touch, as according to a rental report by Live.rent, again, a one-bed apartment is almost $2,300 per month. Thankfully, the trend is going down, but still. Even crazier, look at this posting of someone looking to sleep in the same bed with a stranger for $900. This province also feels the sharp pain of doctor shortage. Imagine waiting in the emergency room for 5 hours as a newborn. I'd like you to understand that Toronto is the Canadian New York. It's the financial capital of Canada, so the barrier to enter is really high, which means opportunities are even higher. Therefore, if you're planning to build a business, there's no better place than Ontario. As for folks looking for employment and PR, there are certain streams that you can see on the screen right now that can be a great option. But simply because of the number of applicants, Ontario immigration likes to be very picky. Due to all the factors listed, I put Ontario in the top left. Obviously, the international student cap is targeting this province above all others. As promised, an important question you need to ask yourself and your family to know where to move is how do I see the future? If it's get PR as fast as possible, Saskatchewan or Nova Scotia. Building $1 million business as fast as possible, Ontario or BC. And if it's buying a house as fast as possible, Alberta. Being close to my culture and people, Ontario or BC. I strongly believe in reverse engineering from the end goals. As I mentioned before, to plan your future better, I recommend signing up on Live.Rent, the sponsor of this video. It's the safest rental platform in Canada that I personally stand by. The link will be in the description. Please comment below what province in Canada you like the most and tell me why. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in this video next.